The other one, I tell you.
So
Yes.
you can decide.
Okay.
So you can
Yes.
run the show, close, and you can
Okay.
check.
Take that one. Yes. Yes.
From
No,
the
no, this is mine. Okay. Try this one. No. This one. Yes. It's not this one. The second.
From now on, you can control.
I'm not sure, but we can try. Is there anybody else who could help?
Yeah, she's there.
Okay. Fine.
So
Thank you.
I pressed next. Just click.
Yeah, just click, and if you want to go previous, you can see you can. Right one, previous, you have to finish the
Mhm.
He's telling me I should just click. Let's hope that works. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mae Bruton Adams. I work for the Nature Conservancy in Micronesia, based in Pohnpei. I was asked to do international cooperation and how that can be used as a tool, a TEEB tool. So what I'd like to do is share with you a little bit how we generated local, on-the-ground cooperation that is then fed into national, regional cooperation that then went international and seems to be going a bit viral as far as creating conservation initiatives around the world and how we can then sustain those over time. This first slide is labeled Micronesians and Island Conservation. Back in 2002, TNC realized that we were spending so much money focusing on little sites in different areas and weren't really gaining much traction, in some cases in sight, but we weren't being able to do conservation at scale. And so what we thought to do was work with individual NGOs. But the NGOs felt that it wasn't enough. They wanted to not only build their capacity, but they wanted to build the capacity of government leaders to ensure that what they were doing on the ground was going to scale up and that government was going to also ensure the protection of the areas that they were working to designate as conservation areas. Well, it went viral because then Micronesia region as a whole grouped together, created this peer learning network that then was engaged by the national government to help with national BSAPs, which are the Biodiversity Strategic Action Plans for each of the nations, utilizing NGOs that weren't previously utilized in the past. And as a result, I'm sure you all have heard of the Micronesia Challenge. The president of Palau thought, I want to make a big splash at one of the COPs, the 2006 COP, and how do I do this? Well, he decided he was going to work with the MIC group to see if it was possible to engage other leaders within Micronesia to do the Micronesia Challenge. The Micronesia Challenge is a commitment by 5 governments, 3 governments, three independent governments, the Republic of Palau, Republic of the Marshall Islands, and the Federated States of Micronesia, along with 2 U.S. territories, the Territory of Guam and the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas Islands, got together and decided that they were going to conserve 30% of their nearshore marine resources and 20% of their terrestrial resources. And a really interesting thing happened after that. They challenged other governments to put up other conservation areas. And we now have the Coral Triangle Initiative, we have the Caribbean Challenge, and our friends from Seychelles are starting to spur on a Western Indian Ocean Challenge. We've also got other challenges like Costa Rica Forever. So this gained traction. The cool thing about this is it ensures sustainability over time. It breaks down sectoral barriers. And what originally divided us because of our political boundaries actually united us through a conservation movement. After the Micronesia Challenge was created, another great challenge came about, and this is strictly focused on international cooperation, which is GLISPA. And I'm sure some of you have heard of GLISPA, the Global Island Partnerships. And one of the really nice things about GLISPA is it's been able to take things and initiatives such as the Micronesians and Island Conservation, the Micronesia Challenge, and scale those up. And GLISPA has 4 focuses. One is leadership. They want to focus on leaders, to get leaders out there, to engage other leaders. It's also about commitment, getting countries to commit, governments to commit to these initiatives. It's about collaboration, ensuring collaboration and communication, not just what's happening internally in the areas where these initiatives are happening, but also globally. And they are also asking and requesting and putting into practice action. Now, one of the nice things about all 4 of these initiatives is that it ensures sustainability, because you have multiple governments working together on a common cause. It has also been able to secure funding, to bring in funding, and then being able to disperse funding at scale in areas where it is needed. I have a kind of an interesting story to share with all of you, and it goes back to the local event that happened. My boss, when he first decided to come and do work in Micronesia, decided that he was going to tell a lot of local people in an upland watershed area that people there were no longer allowed to cut down the wood, and that they had to preserve this area for their benefit. And I have to say, it was kind of difficult for him because he's much lighter than I am, and he has blonde hair. And a lot of the locals thought, well, who are you to tell us how we are to conserve our resources? And he was literally chased out of the watershed area with a machete. And that's what got him thinking, wait a second, conventional conservation by large NGOs doesn't work. Because the minute I leave the site, it's going to fall apart. And what needs to happen is local ownership. And that's when he decided to, in some cases, create local NGOs, and in other cases, help the NGOs that have already been established to help create other NGOs. And it then spurred on, again, this idea of, wow, local people can really do this. And they took ownership of conservation. So it's one thing to do international cooperation, and that's all well and good. And policymakers, I applaud them all for that. But it doesn't work if you can't apply it on the ground. It'll never work if it's not applied on the ground. And I think one of the nice things about it is people who do conservation on the ground truth what happens at the international level. And so one of the nice things I have actually appreciated about the TEEB is it also focuses down at the community level and helps that engagement and moves that engagement up the chain to subnational, national, regional, and then at international levels. And we have several mechanisms in Micronesia that can help the process along. I could spend 3 days on a workshop regarding partnerships, but I'm going to stop now. If you want to know more about Micronesia Challenge, I will be around until the 12th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You might need to help.
Let's close it first. Let's see
Okay.
here. I think mine was last one. Yeah.
Okay.
Looks like. Okay. So yeah, this one. Yes. All right. Let's see what is the situation of.
So if you want to go next
Yeah, I'll manage. Yeah, I'll manage. I'll find a way. Let's see what is the situation in the Seychelles regarding monitoring and databases. I have more slides, so I'm going to go very fast. It is asking me to go very fast. So hold on to your chairs. So, next. Yes, it works. Just for the ones that do not necessarily know where is Seychelles, you can see in this map where it is located. North of Madagascar, east of Kenya. We have several archipelagos. 155 islands listed in our constitution. Well, I know islands that have no name, so actually we don't know exactly how many islands there are in Seychelles.
Can you take this one?
Thank you. So, just a few facts, quick facts. Seychelles, less than 90,000 inhabitants. Main revenue of the country depends almost exclusively on environmental resources. Fishing, the industrial tuna fishing licenses that are given by government of Seychelles to Spanish and French boats mainly, also a few others, Russian, etc. And tourism. It's about half-half. It used to be a bit more fishing, but now with the pirates. Another important thing is that we have 50% of our territory which is protected by law. I think that's a world record, one of the pride of our country. And active environmental education through schools and media. That's really something I've been working in Seychelles for the last 18 years. I used to work in other places before. I can tell you this. Really admirable in Seychelles, the effort that is put, a collective effort into this. And conservation successes that are quite renowned, birds, turtles, plants, mainly through eradication of invasive island vertebrates. Actually, Seychelles is the 5th territory in the world for the number of island vertebrates eradicated from islands, 39 eradications in islands, and the 2nd territory also for tropical islands after Australia, and many island restoration programs. So, a lot of good things, but also challenges. And you can see here, the reclamation area where most of the development is concentrated, in order not to encroach on the natural habitat. The main challenges: alien invasive species, rats, cats, introduced birds, reptiles, crazy ants, you name them. There are so many, and they increase by the day. Another important point is the poaching. The territory is vast, is huge. The exclusive economic area from north to south, the island has really scattered more than 1,300 kilometers. So it's a problem to warden all these islands, seabird colonies, etc. And of course, global warming is really an important threat and challenge for the future. And now, why assess and monitor? Of course, I'm not going to talk about numbers and economics, but obviously, when you derive your revenue from the environment, from a particular space or a particular site, you need to know what is in there in terms of biodiversity. So to determine the conservation status of the species and habitat that you are, and especially those that are rare or threatened. They are, for example, plants that exist in one single island. And at the level of the country also, this is very important. Evaluate the extent of threats, for example, invasive alien species. Take action when required. The more often you do your monitoring, the more chance you have for early detection of crazy ants or rats arriving in an island, for example. Then provide baseline information to determine the potential for island restoration. This is something that we do a lot in Seychelles. Or habitat suitability for species to be reintroduced or introduced for conservation in those islands restored. And follow up ecosystem recovery after conducting eradications. Sorry, I didn't speak in the microphone. I hope everyone has heard me. So as an example, here you have the Seychelles walrus. There used to be only 29 individuals in 1969 on Cousin Island. This species was saved from extinction by 4 different conservations, actually 5 now. We have another conservation that has taken place 6 months ago on Fregat Island. And you can see the numbers that have been monitored by a team of researchers. So initially it was a BirdLife International project, and it's still actually through their partner, local partner Nature Seychelles, and University of East Anglia. So you have an example here of monitoring which is done yearly, or almost yearly, in each of the islands, and the biggest population was on Arid Island, which belongs to Island Conservation Society, to my NGO. Now, one important thing, or maybe I'll talk about it later, is that all this means a lot of work, and you need help. One cannot do all this alone, so we need partnerships. How the policy about monitoring has been set up in the Seychelles? Well, there was an environment management plan in 1990 that was designed for 10 years, and it has been updated and reconstructed. Now we have one for 2000-2010. In 1997, National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan was designed, and then we had also a monitoring program for a dozen of rare and threatened terrestrial species, and that's actually why I went to Seychelles. I was sent by BirdLife International. There's been a similar thing for sea turtles, which are very important for ecotourism, like the birds. And later on, in 2002, there's been a national monitoring scheme for coral reefs and fishes. Maybe the year is not exact, but. And actually now, since 2008, the government with the NGOs has set up two different GEF programs, one to mainstream biodiversity into all the production sectors, and the other one to mainstream the biosecurity aspects. As I said, an invasive species problem is extremely important and a great focus in Seychelles. And actually at the moment we're doing an inventory of key biodiversity areas in the Central Islands, something you must have heard about. Partnerships, as I was saying before, it's very important that we work together. It's not always easy, it's never easy actually, but that's the only way to do things. Especially when you have so many islands, so many things to monitor. So actually this task is shared by NGOs, government services, although every day less now there's a tendency to delegate things to there's been some parastatals created, like the one like the marine parks, which is led by my colleague Denis Matatiken here. Universities, foreign universities, private island owners also, that they play their bit, and private companies, boats that provide transport, hotels, and of course, extremely important, the development of the local capacity. You know, to do all these programs, you need to have teams on the ground that are able to do that, and this is one of the things that I've been doing for the last 18 years in Seychelles. To train local people. I'm very proud now to have some Seychellois that have masters, that have PhDs, and we'll continue in that direction. Just an example, another example, monitoring here, you know, in the lapse of time of 10 years, the total population of the Seychelles white eye, which was on the slide behind, which has increased, almost doubled, you know, in that period, through the different transfers that we've done during this period of time, during these 10 years. It used to exist in 2 islands, actually in one almost disappeared, and now we have it on 5 islands. The populations are increasing. And also, as I said, we do a lot of eradication, so after that we have to see how the ecosystem recovers. Here you have an example of the Seychelles kings. You see we did an eradication, so it was actually impacted, you know, by the rodenticide that we were using, but then the numbers climbed up again, and are now much more than what they used to be when the rats were around. So these are a few examples of what we've been doing, and you can see here a few slides of the happy people, whether they are, you know, local colleagues or university students from Switzerland coming to monitor the vegetation or the insects or the birds. And one last thing, the Seychelles Biodiversity Metadatabase. monitoring data on the ground, it's fine, but then you need to store it, to organize it, so that it can be periodically analyzed. There is no centralized coordinated database in Seychelles. It's very difficult, people have their own data, don't necessarily want to share it. So what we did a metadatabase. A metadatabase where it is registered who has what. So not only the databases, but also the bibliographic reference. So altogether we have 3,600 bibliographic references plus about 150 databases. And we know where they are, etc. 150, not 50. Yeah. So if you're interested about this database, you can access it. It's free at pcusay.sc. And there is the Atoll Research Bulletin, which is very interested to publish it as a special volume. So of course, I mean, I'm not going to detail but just to see how it looks. It's an access database, and there are links between the different sections, and you can make searches and know what has been published or what is databases available in the different islands for birds, for anything. And you can know exactly, for example, for reptiles, who has databases, which of the partners, whether they are NGOs or government, etc., etc.